What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and in this video we are talking about some major headlines across the space, some interesting things. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going to give my insights and stuff. If you see this cat's tail wagging, don't worry about it. He's just chilling, man. Normally, I'm not sitting here, so whenever I pet my cat, it's like down here. It looks like I'm doing something else, but I'm just stroking the kitty, okay? That's all I'm doing. But this is Mufasa. He's a good boy. He's going to be here with us while we take this little journey, so hit the like button, subscribe, sit back, relax. Let's talk about some crypto stuff, okay? Here we are. SEC approves Grayscale's multi-crypto fund amid broader ETF push, which is pretty big, you guys. A multi-crypto fund. This is the first one of its kind ever that I'm aware of. The move comes as the agency accelerates its stance on crypto ETFs, signaling a broader shift in regulatory momentum, which is awesome. There's probably going to be a lot of ETFs that are approved by the end of this year. Yes, a lot of highly anticipated ETFs. Let's see. Key takeaways. The SEC has approved Grayscale's GDLC. That's the ticker. The first multi-crypto ETP. It's not an ETF. It's an exchange-traded product. ETFs are exchange-traded funds. So, tomato, tomato, whatever. They are different, yes, but I don't know. In the U.S., GDLC provides exposure to Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. You guys know what all these have in common? They're all part of the United States Strategic Crypto Reserve. So if you wanted to invest in the United States Strategic Crypto Reserve, all you have to do is buy GDLC, because that's essentially what it is. You're having that same exposure. Grayscale's really good. I don't like Grayscale personally. I don't like the company. I don't think they have morals necessarily, but they are good at business. Okay, they definitely are good at business, and what they are really good at is getting on-ramps for financial institutions to be involved with crypto. So the more on-ramps we have, the more institutional money comes in, the more traditional money comes in as well. Like your grandparents who have their retirements, right? And they're putting money into this stuff, but they don't want to put it directly into crypto because they think it's risky, but maybe an exchange-traded product like this they'd be interested in, and especially one that backs all the cryptos that Donald Trump himself has established as the United States Crypto Strategic Reserve. So analysts expect the approval to trigger a surge, analysts expect the approval to trigger a surge in new crypto ETF launches. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. If we're looking at this down here, the last time this type of approval happened, ETF launches tripled, noted Bloomberg's Eric Balchunas. We could see more than 100 new crypto ETFs within a year. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. A lot of you might be thinking, woohoo, give me more ETFs. Let's do it. Bring on the institutions. And great, institutional money means that it's going to pump our bags, but don't get it mistaken, you guys. If you think that we need, if you think that we need institutions to pump our bags, you're sourly mistaken, right? Of course they're going to pump our bags. The institutions are going to pump our bags, but we don't need the institutions. They need us. We don't need the institutional money to pump our Bitcoin. They need our Bitcoin to pump their institutional money. It's the other way around. The news, the media that are owned by these institutions, they like to paint a pretty picture as if the institutions are the saviors. They're the heroes, that we are just lowly plebs mowing our fields before the kingdom was established and brought riches and glory to the whole to the land. That's not what the institutions are. No, the land is already rich. The land is already rich. We already have an abundance in this landscape. They're coming to siphon it off. It's actually not a good thing to have a bunch of institutional centralization in crypto. It actually goes against what we stand for as crypto investors typically, but maybe not all of us, but some of the more traditional crypto investors. Anyways, we don't need them. They need us. Don't ever read this and think, oh yay, they're coming to save us. That's how they're trying to paint it, okay? They're not saving us. They're coming in to siphon off of the riches and glory, which is fine. It's going to pump the price, but I think it's actually better to have crypto more pure and without institutional involvement. But we're going to get institutions one way or another, so that's what's happening. Another thing that I thought was interesting is that Ben Cohen here is talking about a 70% drawdown in the next bear market, right? If we look at Bitcoin here, we look at this chart, the all-time history chart dating back to 2011, our very first bear market, you can see we dropped 93%, 86%, 84%, 77%. So calling for a 70%, drawback is actually kind. That's the most tame bear market that we've ever had. If that were to be the case, does it have to happen? No, but history would at least caution us to at least believe that it might. This sounds like something Ben Cohen would say. It would be a steep decline from $250,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, if Bitcoin stopped at $250,000, but I don't think it stops there. I think we go to 500,000. A 70% drop would bring it down to around 75K, which, in all fairness, 75K, that's pretty close. You know, that's like right around this area where we found support and resistance before. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that we would actually more likely go higher to $500,000. But this isn't a price prediction video. I've already given. I'll give my insights on that maybe in another video, and I've already given that insight a lot. But why we believe 500,000 is going to be the cycle ending target, right? I'll do it real quick. Okay, from a high to a low here, measuring this cycle high to cycle low, you stop just above the 2272, right? We take it here. We go from a high to a low. We stopped yet again just below or just above the 2272 right there. If we take another high to low with our last cycle here, ignoring last cycle, because last cycle didn't do it, but I think that this cycle will. We take a high to low here. The 2272 there is at 462K. And we're likely not going to stop there. We're likely going to go just above it as we had those other two cycles. So 500K is where I think we'll go. If we go to 500K, instead of it being 75K that the bear market's at, let's see, 500. I think we'll be at 250 by the end of this year, guys. Maybe somewhere around there by the end of this year. And then we'll reach for 500K going into early 2026. A 70% drawback would put us down at about 150K. 75% drawback would put us down at about 120K. Why am I doing 75, 76% drawback? Because it's just under 77. We've seen it where we go from a 93% drop, 86%, 84, 77, clearly getting tamer and tamer each time. And each time it's about the same length. It's about a year. This was the shortest one. I think that we're going to have a short one. I think that coupled with the fact that we decrease in overall decay, we see a lesser drop in bear markets cycle after cycle. I think we're going to have a left translated bear market this cycle, which means that it won't last a year. I think it'll last less time. And that makes sense. If I think the bull market's going to extend longer than the bear market might be shorter, that's going to cut into bear market time. I think that's what makes sense. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if instead of 77%, we definitely saw something lower. 84 to 77, that's a 7% difference. 86 to 84, that's a 2% difference. So, 70% maybe at the most, or at the least would be what we should expect. Maybe a 75% drop at the most. So something that's above where we are now even is what we should be looking forward to whenever it comes to the end of the bear market, right? In other words, guys, right now, if you're buying Bitcoin here at $116.3 thousand, you can count on the fact that you're probably not going to get these prices even at the bear market lows. We're at sub bear market lows next cycle as long as we hit 500K by the end of the cycle. Shout out to Ben Cohen, legend in the space, you guys. If you don't follow him on what is it, Into the Cryptoverse, just type in Ben Cohen. It's I think his channel is just Ben Cohen, Ben. Let's see, where is it? Ben Cohen, yeah, Ben Cohen, Ben Cowen. He's great. He's a very mathematical mind. His stuff can be a little bit boring sometimes, but it's homework. Homework is boring. You got to do it. You got to run the numbers. I think he's great. I think he's a good individual in the space. Anyways, moving on. Why is crypto down today? Who cares? Who cares, right? You read these stories. I pulled this up not to read it, not because there's anything controversial in there, but because every single day there's an article that says, why is crypto down today? Why is crypto up today? It's always trying to provide some answer as to why. The why, if you're looking for the why, you're going to find it. Somebody's going to tell you. The real reason is nobody knows. There's volatility. People are selling, less people are buying. People are buying, less people are selling. That's why, at the end of the day, right? You can justify it with all the news pieces that you want, but the point of this is if you're looking for something that tells you why the market is moving down, and the reason why I'd included it in this video is because if you're looking for the reason why, you're going to find it. And if you find something that's scary, because if the market's moving down, it's going to be negative, right? That might influence you to sell. So I'm making this segment of the video specifically with the intent in mind to tell you to probably just stay away from articles like this. They're not going to help you. You're not going to find any value. If you're reading this stuff, you're not going to find any value. If there's some technical analytics that are going on, okay, maybe there's some value to have there, but it's really just there, I think, to distract you. If you want to look for reasons why the market's moving down or up, you're going to find them, but that doesn't mean that they're actually the reasons, right? That's just some things that can help explain what's going on in the world. Really, but you won't know about it until after the fact. You're never going to know about it beforehand. So it's if you want to read about it and you're curious, sure, you can, but I just think articles like this are kind of a waste of time personally. in my opinion. So moving on, RCMP claim record cryptocurrency seizure of $56 million in money laundering probe. I don't know if you guys know TradeOgre, but oh, what the heck just happened? Cancel. I'm gonna opt out of that. Yeah. TradeOgre, apparently they went radio silent. They were doing some money laundering, which is kind of sad because TradeOgre was actually, they had a really good reputation. I don't know what happened, man, but this is a very small Canadian exchange. They've been shut down. They've been investigated, and let's see. I'm pretty sure they're shut down. Investigators have reason to believe that the majority of funds transacted on TradeOgre came from criminal sources. Oh wow, oh wow. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if that's true because again, they kind of had a good reputation. I wonder if they just didn't like the people that were in charge. I don't know enough about it. The main attraction of this type of platform, which doesn't require users to identify themselves, yeah. So it's, maybe they're being accused of money laundering. It's in Canada. Love our Canadian family. I love the Canadians. Shout out to the Great White North. But your government is not friendly whenever it comes to freedom of privacy and stuff like that, right? I don't think that's a secret. And just because they're being private, just because there's no KYC, doesn't mean that they're criminals, right? Maybe they just don't want you to follow their transactions and be aware of who they are for their own reasons, for whatever. We all have the right to privacy. Charges may follow. So they've seized some assets. I think this is just a shakeout. Really, actually, after reading this, concerns about TradeOgre going radio silent and offline began circulating on Reddit in July. I wonder if that's true, or was that just programmed in Reddit? Were people just saying that just to get like an excuse? Popular with users of Monero, which is a private blockchain. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, this is a shakeout. Actually, I think this is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. They didn't catch the bad guys. I think the bad guys are catching the good guys personally. But I don't know enough. More will develop. I'm sure if they want to shut them down, they're going to. But it seems like that's what's going on now. So hopefully, fingers crossed that TradeOgre comes out on top and that there's nothing fraudulent going on with them, because they did have actually a really good reputation. I would be surprised, but time will tell. Time will tell you guys. But if it's what I think it is, I would not be surprised at all if this was just a shakeout from the federal police here in Canada. I'm pretty sure it's Canadian federal police. But anyways, that did not go how I thought it was. I thought it was some kind of fraudulent stuff, but it sounds like they don't have anything. Charges may press. They don't have anything. They literally seize their assets. They're like, hey, we don't like what you're doing because you allow people to invest and trade with privacy. Because of that, we're going to assume that you're criminals. That's some BS, right? That would never happen. That would never happen. I would say that would never happen in America, but to be completely fair, you wouldn't have no KYC in America either. So I mean, I'm one to talk, but in all fairness, that's pretty sad that they're being attacked. XRP news. Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse says XRP ETF is inevitable before year end as demand surges. I think it's a perfect way to end this video with, tying into the same thing that we were talking about with the ETP from Grayscale. I think it is inevitable. I think XRP will have an ETF. At this point, you can already invest in XRP by itself. You can invest in XRP with the GDLC Grayscale Trust, where it's the multiple cryptos that invest in XRP, Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Cardano. So you can invest in it through that. But having the ETP, having the ETFs, I very much do believe that it's going to happen by the end of the year. Something to be aware of, you guys. Something to be aware of that most people don't talk about. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. But when ETFs come out, every single ETF that's ever existed, whenever they come out, at least United States ETFs, the price drops afterwards. Every single ETF, and we're making you aware of this right now. Maybe you'll pump going into it. Maybe you'll be stagnant going into it. Maybe you even drop going into it. But after the ETF is released, the price always drops, always. For Bitcoin was the first asset in history that when it dropped after its ETF announcement happened, whenever it actually got approved and it got listed, it dropped for like a couple of weeks. Like it dropped for like a few days. I forget how long it was from. Let's actually look. I bet we can figure this out real quick. Hold on. Let me look at this real quick. I'll go on a weekly time frame here because it happened earlier. It was January 11th. Happened earlier this cycle. I want to say it was 2023. It happened on January 11th, right here. So literally 2 weeks later, from the high. 2 weeks later, less than 2 weeks probably. Yeah, less than 2 weeks. The average crypto, whenever, or not the average crypto, the average commodity, when there's an ETF approved, they see downtrends or stagnation for months or even like almost a year or more. Okay, so not saying that's what's going to happen for XRP. Bitcoin and crypto, they're open 24/7, so they move a little bit faster and things are a little bit more exciting now. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if when XRP, whenever it's ETF, I'm frozen here on the camera, whenever the ETF is approved, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a little bit of a drop. So before the end of 2025, if this happens at the end of October, that would line up perfectly. If it happens at the end of October when the rest of crypto is topping off in October, we'll correct, and then going into the end of the year, we'll pump up again. If it happens at the end of the year, or maybe in the kind of beginning of November, something like that, might make sense that we correct and then we pump up again going into the end of the year, going into 2026 as well. I do believe that a lot of cryptos are going to pump going into 2026, but technical suggests a potential 21% rally toward $3.67 with the $5 as a longer term target. I think you're going to go way above that, XRP. But that's pretty cool. Congratulations to the XRP army. Analysts see $8 billion inflow in 1 year, in year one. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. And that's probably also, I would think this, okay, thinking forward, because what I did say about ETFs too is that they provide not necessarily, they do provide a drawback, you do drop, but mainly what it is stagnation, right? You don't see like a horrible, terrible 90% drop, but stagnation. And when this ETF gets approved, the first year of its approval will likely be during the next bear market, not the whole year, but partially in that first year of approval for the ETF will exist in the bear market. I would expect then, here's a positive light, if you see where I'm going with this, that the bear market for XRP will probably be more tame than it's ever been before. You might see a more tame bear market than even Bitcoin by the end of this next bear market, or something similar, something that's not even above like an 85% drop, which is pretty tame for any crypto. So I don't have anything else that I want to say, guys. I think I've gone over all of it. If you guys enjoyed this news broadcast brought to you by Czar Gets Crypto, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. Remember, you guys, if there's one thing that you could take away from all of this, and I think this is the most important thing, is that we don't need the institutions, they need us. Do not let them gaslight you into thinking it's the other way around. We don't need them, they need us. That's literally the truth of it, okay? Crypto is the power, and we have the power. We have the power to buy it ourselves. We don't need no stinking institutions, but they need us. They need the crypto, okay? Hit the like button, subscribe, take care, bye-bye.